on the Earth Lodge. They were semi-sedentary, meaning that they were horticulturists and grew corn, beans, and pumpkins, and they went on 2 semi-annual buffalo hunts in the Republican River Valley and farther west. Since they were on the reservation from 1857 to 1875, they reserved the right in their treaty to hunt the Republican River Valley. On August 5th, 1873, 3 miles east of present-day Trenton, they had an immense kill in that canyon. The women and children were coming in to help prepare the hunt to be taken back home, when 12,000 Sioux warriors, this is according to one historian, various other ones also claim other tribal warriors, swept down upon them. The Pawnee warriors, women and children were killed, 156 in all, and the canyon became known as Massacre Canyon. So if you have a chance to stop by the visitor center there, it is a very good place to stop by. This battle encouraged the remaining Pawnee to move from the Nebraska reservation to Warren, Oklahoma in 1874 and 75. When we're out here, we'll look to see if there are any Pawnee artifacts have been left in Burr Oak Canyon, since they would have been going through hunting. And I was interested to see in some of the artifacts that Don had, there was a lot of Republican River jasper scrapers and some smaller points, and which could indicate that not only was there people from the woodland period there, there was some pottery that was similar to the Central Plains, and there was also some that looked like could also be Pawnee. I looked at some of the recorded sites at the State Historical Society near Burr Oak Canyon, and there's none really close to them. I know there's been collections going on around here, and I am trying to record some of them just so that we have a better understanding of who and where people were at. The first site up here I want to talk about is the Lucena site, and this is a photograph of Dr. Holen with the Denver Museum, where he's unearthing this mammoth bone. It was radiocarbon dated to 17,000 years ago, and he believes it shows human modification. So that pushes back the 12,000 years that we know natives being in the area a lot farther, and he's still working on that project. The next one, also along Medicine Creek, is the Line Creek, Red Smoke, and Allen sites. And these were occupied at different times, from some in the Paleo, some in the Woodland, and some in the Upper Republican time periods. Another site was Ash Hollow Caves, which is Plains Archaic, and these are artifacts that were found at that site. Another archaic site, which is probably one of the closest recorded ones here, is the Spring Creek site. It's the archaic, dating about 5,700 years ago. The Spring Creek site is on the Red Willow Reservoir. And last year I was part of the survey crew that surveyed Red Willow Reservoir, and in one location we found a piece of a bone in conjunction with a small heart. We radiocarboned this bone to about 16,857 years ago. This could have been part of a mammoth or an ancient bison bone. So we are working more with trying to doing more work on this project and in conjunction with this one to see if we can prove that there were a native group down in this area. The last site that I wanted to talk about was the Glen Elder site. It is down in Kansas. It's called the Solomon River Phase. It's on the Solomon River. It's part of the Central Plains tradition, which is about 80,000 to 1350. This phase is very similar to the Upper Republican, which was in the Burr Oak Canyon area. The only major difference that I found was there were nutting stones down at the Glen Elder site, and there has not been any nutting stones found up in this area.
It's a nutting stone.
What is a nutting stone?
I'll show you a picture of it in just a moment.
Thank you.
I just going to talk about a minute about why Native Americans would have been drawn to Burr Oak Canyon. It was a forested, sheltered, watered niche with game, vegetable foods, and possible nappable stone there, which would have made this an extremely attractive, what we would call a resource patch, and they would have been drawn for a lot of ways away to this area. Native Americans could have retreated there in the wintertime. Smoky Hill silicified chalk, or we a lot of times call it Republican River jasper, outcrops in many of the small tributaries along the Republican River, and is a resource that Native Americans would have sought out to nap and to make into their points and other lithic tools. And we'll look today maybe to see if we can see outcroppings of that in Burr Oak Canyon. And then I was thinking that there was, it was reported that there was a spring in Oak Canyon, and I think Jim said it's more like a sea, but there still would have been some moisture there, so that would have been also attractive to them. Why would they want to use it? First, did they use the oak trees? There's no direct archaeological evidence for the use of acorns, which is, I'm referring to the nutting stones there. Nutting stones have been found practically everywhere else, and I'll go into that in just a minute. Oak timber has been archaeologically identified as used in the construction of some earth lodges. There's a graduate student at Kansas State right now working on the project of that, which I will be very interested to find out his details. And earlier excavations, archaeological excavations in the 1930s through the 60s, did not have all the recovery methods that we use at present, and for a while there was no real interest in knowing what the vegetable part of their diet was, so these items were either not recovered, identified, or noted. Well, I think that this project is really exciting because we can maybe prove that if there's oak presence, maybe acorns were processed, or we can find some evidence of that. For thousands of years, acorns were the life for the majority of Californian Indian people. As a stable food source, the acorns figured prominently in the diets and lives of individuals there. The gathering, processing, cooking, storing were important and time-consuming activities, and their lives revolved around them. Anthropologist Alfred Kroeber estimated that more than 75% of Native Americans relied on acorns for food on a daily basis. A good acorn crop yields only every 2 or 3 years, and you guys can maybe contradict me there if I'm wrong there. Most Indian groups constructed acorn caches or granaries to offset this shortcoming, which resulted in the ability to store acorns for up to 10 to 12 years. They have the advantage because they're easy to collect, have a high caloric return, and they have a high nutritional content. But some of the disadvantages of acorns are they're often bitter, it's not always a reliable yearly crop, and it does take a lot of energy to make food out of acorns. Here this lady is peeling and shelling them. One person can likely shell about 5 to 10 kilograms per hour. You can pound it into flour, it takes about 1 hour per kilogram, and the leaching takes about 7/10 of a kilogram per hour. So it looks like it is a lot of work, but when you stop and think the other grains that they had available to gather there were the wild grains, such as the little barley, giant ragweed, sumpweed, and knotweed. These are very tiny seeds. To gather all of them, the return rate was much lower. They only had like 400 kilocalories per kilogram, where acorns can have up to 1,500 kilocalories per kilogram. So it was a very good nutritional source for them. As you can see in this slide, they supply protein, fat, a lot of essential amino acids. However, they all do contain tannin, which is a bitter compound that has a